just finished my training ride, and yep, and some it's hot to touch. So here's my jet black trainer, and it's a fluid trainer, and it's done around about 18 rides, and each ride between an hour and an hour and a quarter each session. Now, as you can see by the pictures there's been leakage of the fluid, and it's a red colour from the bottom. As it's getting hot, as the unit gets hot, the fluid somehow leaks out from the seal here and runs down the bottom and onto the ground. So it's obviously got a leak when it gets hot. Now, I've seen quite a few complaints, especially online, about the fluid trainers leaking. I'm not sure if it's specific to the Jet Black brand, but this is definitely leaking. So we're going to open it up, and it's got 4mm Allen keys here, so hopefully it's straightforward. We'll open up and have a look and see if we can fix the unit. So first you get a little tray like that, a little drip tray. So when you undo it, all the fluid runs in there. Now I'm going to remove this adjuster, because otherwise it's going to get in the way of one of my Allen keys here. And some gloves, because you don't want any of that red stuff on your hands, just in case. Now undo the bolts nice and evenly, just a little bit at a time. First you'll have to break them, of course, because they'll be pretty tight. So make sure the Allen key is nice and square, not a bird over Allen key. And just release them. So that's basically what's inside the fluid trainer. So you've got the reservoir where the oil goes, and this part here that goes around, impellers. In this case, they're made of metal, so they turn around fast in the fluid, which is now in the drip tray. There you go. That's what's inside a fluid trainer. And of course the seal, which seals it along here to stop the fluid coming out, is in here. So we'll have a look at that, see if it's damaged. Right, so I've cleaned this up, and you can see it relies on a very flat and well machined surface here, and of course the seal most of all to keep the fluid in. Right, it's just sitting there, so you don't have to. There we go. Oh, put it on this black surface so you can see, looking closely. It's not too bad. Now we flip it over and have a look, and I can see an imperfection up here. See there? Now that will easily enable fluid to leak out. And that looks like it's either been installed wrongly. I would say actually no, it's probably a manufacturing defect. Not good, because it sits in nicely. It wouldn't fold, it wouldn't really fold. So maybe heat has destroyed it there at a particular point, or it's been put in like that from brand new. Yep, there's another imperfection just there. On that one side. The other side is quite good. Okay, I've also given this a good clean. and it all seems to be quite good. Okay, so I've now just cleaned the main body, and on close inspection it looks pretty good to me. Hard to see with the phone. Right, with all that done, we'll now send the company an email and see if we can get a brand new seal for this unit. So I sent Jet Black an email. Hi, I have a leak in Z1 fluid trainer. Took it apart, found 2 defects in the seal. Can you sell me a new seal? And they actually rang me back, which was nice, and said the resistance unit seal is not available as a separate part, unfortunately. But they could sell me a new resistance unit at between $150 to $200. Well, not much success there with Jet Black. In fact, at that cost, I'd be seriously thinking about just buying a whole new trainer anyhow. But we're not about to give up. If all we have to do is replace this little O-ring seal, then surely we can do that. Now these are available everywhere. Now all you need to do is measure the diameter of your seal and the cross section in millimeters, how thick it is. And this is a round seal. I'm not sure about all trainers, but this is a round cross section. On the oil filters of your cast, quite often they're flat, so we're not talking about that one. But if your trainer has that, then so be it. But this is a round one. So let's have a look on the internet. Now, because your O-ring fits in this recess, all you need to do is measure the diameter of that recess. Here we're measuring the outside diameter, and it's 100 millimeters. And the cross section of the O-ring, here we're using a caliper. It says 2.99 millimeters, in other words 3 millimeters. Over to eBay, and it didn't take long to find them. Now, before you commit to buy, just check the item description. Make sure that the diameter that they're referring to is the diameter you're looking for. So it may be either the inside or the outside diameter. In the case we're looking at here, it was the outside diameter of 100 millimeters. So we've got the O-rings, and even if you do have to buy a pack of 10, it still only turns out at what, about 65 cents each. So it's an O-ring, and it should fit perfectly in there. Now the fluid itself may vary according to what brand and maybe even what model of fluid trainer that you have. So it might be a good idea to check with the manufacturer first to find out exactly what fluid they're using. Now the two factors to consider, of course, is viscosity, how thick or thin is it, and its temperature dynamics. Does the fluid change its structure in temperature range? It might be one fluid when it's cooler and react differently when it's warmer, because remember, the resistance unit can get quite hot. In this case, this one gets up to 80 degrees Celsius. So that as the temperature changes, the oil or the fluid might change its structure and affect the performance. Now I've done a bit of homework to save you the time, and with most fluid trainers it'll use a light hydraulic fluid. So you can zip along to your local car outlet, automobile parts outlet, and buy some light hydraulic fluid. This one here is by Castrol, and it's a synthetic one, so it contains some antioxidants and stabilizers and that, and of course its temperature range is really high as well because it's used in motor vehicles. So $13 or $14 will get you a nice fresh bottle of that. But for the sake of an ultra do-it-yourself, I'm going to actually reuse this. We're going to filter it and reuse it, and what we're lacking in volume, we're going to top it up with paraffin oil and see how we go. So we've got a nice clean jar and a coffee filter paper. I'm just going to hold it in place with some pegs like that, and then we'll pour in our fluid. Right, just a bit at a time because it will take a while to filter. Right, all done. That's all clear. Take the pegs off of this. Make sure first that the reservoir unit sits in the right position. So the bolt holes, they line up all the way around in different positions. So make sure you get the right position first from where it was in the first place. Now for this one, I remember that was right there. So what I'm going to do is just make a mark, just put a little bit of text mark on there and text mark there, so I know that. There we go, so that's where it goes. And make sure your reservoir unit is nice and clean, and then get the clean fluid and pour it in. Now it's not going to overfill because the impeller is going to take up some room as well. So you'll get about that much. So here's our reservoir ready to go. Now have your bolts ready and the Allen key and of course the paraffin oil, and have some paper towels handy just in case, because you're going to get some spillage into the drip tray. Have your drip tray as well. So gloves on, always have gloves on when you're dealing with this liquid as well. Now what you do first is just guesstimate how much you lost in fluid and add it first, because otherwise once you put the unit on it's going to be difficult to put the fluid in. So you put some in first, and it's better to have too much, that way it will overflow. So now you line up the marks, carefully go in, line up those marks. Now you're going to get spillage. Okay, we've got the spillage happening, it's coming out, you can see it, it's coming out on this side here. There you can see it, that's okay. So we line up the marks, put your first bolt in, and then put the opposite bolt in. Once all the bolts are on, do them up nice and evenly, all even tension all the way around. Right, now the bolts are all tight, give it a bit of a wipe over. And finally, I'm just using some degreaser, just a little bit, just to get a nice clean. All nice and clean, ready to test. So I'll just screw the adjuster back in. Almost September now, and so we've had about 4 or 5 months of our winter. I've ridden the trainer probably 7 or 8 times because we've had a dry winter this year. Nevertheless, 7 or 8 times is a good test, about an hour to an hour and a half each session. And I put a paper towel under the resistance unit, not one drop, so I reckon it was the O-ring seal. So no problems, and it's still nice and quiet. So I reckon job done. So the total cost all up, the O-ring, a pack of 10 for $6.43, and I only needed one. The coffee filter papers, a pack of 40, and I still only needed one, $2.20. And the paraffin oil I already had, but if I had to buy a whole bottle, it's $13. All up, $21.63. I've got my trainer back, and certainly a lot cheaper than $150 to $200.